Welcome, this is my video on my United States typeset. I just got this coin right here. This is a 1803 draped bust half cent. This is an 1826 turban head half cent. And that Liberty head half cent I just received in the mail. XF details hole from 1851. You see it's a little red still with some great detail, obviously XF level detail. Moving on to the large cents, we have a draped bust from 1800, a turban head from 1810, a Liberty head from 1837, and another one from 1853. Taking a look at the reverses, here's that first half cent I showed you. You can see the 1 out of 200 there at the bottom of it. And you can really see on the second half cent here the detail on the reverse of that. And then the final half cent currently in an NGC holder. You can see the detail there on the reverse of that half cent. As for the large cents, our first one there, you can see the 1 out of 100. Moving on to the turban head, again, that's a little more slick, but you can still see the 1 cent label there on the reverse, and then the 1 cent labels on both of those Liberty head large cents. As for the small cents, we have a Flying Eagle from 1858, an Indian head from 1859. We can actually see some of the letters of Liberty there on the headband. And a copper nickel from 1863, the 1903 bronze Indian head, as well as, of course, the 1909 VDB. We'll take a look at that when we get to the reverse of it. And in a wheat cent from 1910. It's really not in great shape at all, but that's what we have in there. Moving on down, we have the zinc cent from 1943. When we get to the memorial reverse, I put in a proof from 1970. We can see that's in, not the greatest of shape, but also kind of cool cameo effect there. Moving on to this 2-cent piece, I believe it's a 1964. You can kind of see it, not a whole lot of the detail on there. Now that we got 1965, now that that proof cent is out of the way there, you can see that. From 1853, we have a 3-cent silver, a very small piece. And then we have a 3-cent nickel from 1865 with a little hole in it as well. Moving on to the reverses for those small cents, we have the 1859, the Flying Eagle cent, then the 1859 Indian head, followed by the 1863 Indian head, now with the shield at the top of the cent, continued on through the bronze reverse after 1964, that's a 1903 Indian head there. We have our 1909 VDB right here. Let's see if we can get that to focus. There we go. You can kind of see some of it when I zoom in, but it's really not great. 1910 right there. Now, of course, you can see it now that I moved. You see the VDB there at the bottom of the wheat cent on your left. The zinc wheat cent right here. The memorial proof that I put in there, the 2-cent piece, the 3-cent silver, and of course the 3-cent nickel with the hole in it. Next up are the half dimes. This one is from 1837, has a hole and some scratches on it, but full Liberty there. Very beautiful looking coin. We have a Liberty seeded half dime from 1857. From 1853 to 1855, they put arrows on the side to indicate the change in weight on the coin. So there is that seeded dime. And then by the time we get to later on, it adds United States of America on the obverse of the coin. So there is an 1872 Liberty seeded half dime. I bought my first half dime probably a year ago, and since then they've probably been my favorite coin because they're, well, 5 cents. As we can see, they're a beautiful reverse there on the capped bust. And then the words half dime on the Liberty seated halves. That middle one, the one with arrows, is minted in New Orleans, as seen by that O mint mark. The more common 5-cent piece is the nickel. Right here is a shield nickel with rays on the back. We'll see that when we get to the reverse from 1866. We have a shield nickel with no rays from 1882. You can see very good details on that. Well, it's higher than anyways. Liberty head nickel with no cents. Once again, we'll see that on the back. Probably an AU or better coin. Very beautiful coin there. In 1912, Liberty head nickel with cents, of course, on the back there. The Buffalo Type 1, again, you'll see on the reverse from 1933 the difference between that and the Buffalo Type 2. My example from 1937, rather. A Jefferson nickel from 1981. This one is a proof, probably deep cameo there. Beautiful looking coin. I chose a silver nickel from 1943. They were only minted for a couple of years during the Second World War with 35% silver in them. And we'll move on to the dimes after we take a look at the reverses of our nickels. First up, of course, again, is that shield nickel with rays. You can see the difference between the with and without rays 5-cent piece there, the shield nickel. Moving on to the V nickel, we see the difference between the without cents and with cents. The E pluribus unum move to the top when the cents do go on it. As many people know, those V nickels were plated with gold as the new $5 coin. People tried to pass it off as that, but of course it was not. The Type 1 Buffalo nickel, sadly, is not right next to it, but you see a raised mound there versus a recessed mound in the Type 2. The 5 cents much more legible on this coin. The common Jefferson nickel, this one is of course a proof. That war nickel noted by the big letter on top of the Monticello. And then we'll move on to the dimes. I really don't need to say it, but we're at the dimes now. 1835, that capped bust there, Liberty seated at an 1842. The Liberty seated again with arrows down here in the bottom, heavy toning, hole on top, really not great, but a full Liberty there. So it works. You can see it, very beautiful coin there. Liberty seated again, amazing detail except for the hole at the top of it, and now with United States of America around the side. The Barber dime, really great dime from 1914 there. Mercury dime might be a proof, but regardless, it is in very great shape. Actually, sorry, that's not a proof. That's the next one to talk about. 1942, Mercury dime right there, probably an AU-BU shape. Roosevelt dime from 1955 is a proof, probably not a cameo, but still a very great silver coin. And then, of course, it turned to clad after 1964, and there we put a 1976 S Roosevelt clad dime. Again, that beautiful reverse there on that capped bust dime. I love the capped reverse and obverse for that matter. Liberty seated, of course, the one dime there, United States of America on the back until we get past the arrows design. Then United States of America goes to the front. Again, very great detail on there. The Barber dime, this time minted in Denver there, 1914 Denver. 1944, whatever it was, S Mercury dime in immaculate condition there. Not quite full bands, but it is still nonetheless a great coin. That proof silver Roosevelt dime right there in great shape as well, and the proof clad dime also in fantastic shape. Moving on, we have a very limited mintage piece. You see only 4 years there. The 20-cent piece made of silver, slightly smaller, of course, and then the quarter has some scratching on there. It says like J and D or something like that, but nonetheless a great coin. I do not have the Liberty Head quarter, but I do have the Liberty seated quarter from 1857 there in good condition there. The 1854, again with arrows to note the change in weight. 1891, also in great shape there, that Liberty seated quarter. Great condition, can't complain about that. The Liberty Head quarter from 1899. The Type 1 and Type 2 Liberty standing quarters. You see the difference again between the raised mound underneath the feet of Liberty and the recessed mound between that 1917 and 1925 coin. We have a 1962 proof quarter there, followed by a statehood quarter proof minted in San Francisco. Beginning with the 20-cent piece, we can see the eagle with 20 cents on the bottom. Again, the coin I do not have. The $quarter seated pieces here with the I believe in God we trust over the eagle on that last example after the arrows in the middle. The arrows is a very dark coin, but that first one and last one, very beautiful coins. The Barber quarter really not in great shape there. The Standing Liberty quarter, again, another difference we can see is the stars under the eagle so that it doesn't look like it's landing instead of flying. And so we can see that it's flying more in the Type 2. And then our two proof quarters, the first one silver, the second one a clad state quarter. Moving on to the older half dollars right here, we have an 1824 turban head with the hole on top. That's not really part of the coin, but you know, it is what it is. An 1837 with a reeded edge, of course that reeding there to prevent scraping off parts of the coin and making it smaller than it is. You also see the decreased size of the coin between those two examples. We have an 1859 Liberty seated half dollar, not in great shape, but it is an example of it. An 1855 with arrows, and then a 1877 coin as well. And of course, the Barber half dollar from 1908, I believe, minted in Denver. So again, here are the two capped bust quarters. You see a 50C versus 50 cents on the two turban heads. This one, the 1851 O Liberty seated half dollar, notated by half doll. I believe it said 1854. That was incorrect earlier. The 1855 with arrows, also from New Orleans. We have another Liberty half dollar there. And then the Barber half dollar, again, minted in Denver with the motto being held by the eagle. As for the modern half dollars, we have a 1941 Walking Liberty, an 1963 D Franklin half dollar in BU shape, 1964 Kennedy, 1968 Kennedy silver clad 40% instead of 90% like all the previous ones, and a 1986 proof commemorative half dollar. I don't have the other commemoratives in here. That is what it is, but you see some beautiful proof condition on here. I believe I found this coin roll hunting through a box of half dollars. Again, the Walking Liberty half dollar shown here from Denver, the nice Franklin half dollar, the 40% or the 90% Kennedy, and then the 40% Kennedy silver clad, and then of course the proof commemorative half dollar. And I don't have three more to put in here yet, but they're relatively easy to find. And our last section is the silver dollars. I don't have either of the Liberty seated, but I do have a trade dollar. It's probably an XF shape. I believe it's an 1876 S. It's in great shape, but it is very discolored, scratched up, chop marks, stuff like that. But the details are certainly there on it. We have in 1904, I want to say New Orleans Morgan silver dollar. In 1923 Peace dollar, and probably AU or BU shape. And then in 1971 S silver Eisenhower dollar. I chose, of course, the silver one because I wanted to, and you know, the more silver in the book, the better. First, of course, is that trade dollar. You see the big damage down there at the bottom between trade and dollar underneath the S mint mark. But beautiful breast feathers on that coin. The Morgan, again, toning along the breast feathers of the coin, but nonetheless a great coin minted in San Francisco. That beautiful Peace dollar in AU shape or better. And then, of course, our very nice silver Ike. And that's it for our typeset.